Mid-August means everything in sports is exploding around us. The WNBA playoffs are coming soon. College sports are kicking off nationwide. We talk a lot about the big dogs in college athletics, and today we're going to go to West Texas in the land of Red Raiders right here on Locked On Women's Basketball.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Tuesday, friends. It is August 19th, 2025. It's back to school time all across the country. So to every teacher out there, may the force be with you. I am Missy Heidrick, national college basketball analyst and national correspondent at The Next. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Football season is around the corner. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now. Well, it used to be that there was a downtime in college athletics where things were quiet and we all took summer vacations with no news to follow. And then came the month of July and it was time to go back to school, and then we're in August. Well, this new normal we live in now, that is so far from reality. We're talking about realignment every day. We're talking about NIL, house settlements, revenue sharing, and institutions working 24/7 to be sure they're relevant and staying ahead of their competition. It's words like investment, commitment, long-term sustainability. They used to be tied to companies, and now they're tied to athletic departments and teams. There's a boom happening in Lubbock, Texas. Texas Tech is standing tall amongst some of the big dogs now. To talk about all of it and more, a Big 12 media veteran, former voice of the Lady Raiders women's basketball program, and a man with his finger on the pulse of everything that happens in West Texas, founder of the Raiderland.com, Ryan Hyatt. Ryan, welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. It is so good to see you. How are things in your world?
It's great to be here. Life is good out here. The temperatures are now slowly going down into the lower mid 90s, and we had something called rain the other day. So I guess fall is, right around the corner. I never want to wish away days, but these last few weeks before the football season gets going, and luckily soccer's already started and we've got real games going there, but it just seems like an interminable wait to get to things that count in the standings. So we're nearly there, everybody. Hold on. We're nearly there.
We are. And that is the best part of it. Actually, week 0 for college football fans. So you have about 4 days to get yourself prepared. Ryan, I want to start at like the 60,000 foot level, and we're going to go back in time because I feel like so much of where we sit today is a little bit based on history. It's based on looking at where people started and where they have landed in this current landscape in today's college athletics universe. I feel like it goes back it really goes back to the Southwest Conference days, but then the evolution of the Big 12. And I mean, the first ever college football game in the Big 12 was Kansas State versus Texas Tech, for those that were thinking about it back in time. And I think a lot of it comes down to just looking at where teams, where programs were, where institutions were, and where they found a place that they could figure out was home. As you look back on that time, Texas Tech has gone through the whole gamut of the different views and the different feels of the Big 12. Where, from then to now, how has things evolved in Lubbock, and where does the institution see themselves today?
It's fascinating. I think back the waning days of the Southwest Conference, and when I first started covering Texas Tech in the late 80s, early 90s, the athletic department, I remember when the budget went over $10 million. Think about that. Yeah. $10 million. And now we're well over tenfold that. We watched the hyper growth, not just in women's basketball, but in all sports. I think in the mid 90s, the formation of the Big 12 accelerated some things, the expansion of the SEC. The BCS beginning in 96, 97, though, really was that injection of money into the athletic departments that I think started fueling the facilities race, that all of a sudden Now you've got money to build these Taj Mahal facilities, or what we thought they were at the time. We look back and they seem kind of quaint.
Yeah.
So we go through all of that into the playoff era in football to reach now the NIL thing. And what I think is fascinating, the shift we're seeing now, is that universities are figuring out how to invest in people and not things. Before NIL, before the straight up payment of players in the house settlement, all you could spend your money on was a new juice bar, another weight room, another facade. Now you're not going to do that. You're going to spend it on players and on the people. And that to me is the biggest shift I think we've seen in the last 10 years, is a much more professional sports model. And I'll say this, and you understand this, you've seen a lot of facilities. I remember the first time I went to an NFL facility in the mid 90s, let's say in the mid, I was struck how Spartan it seemed.
Yeah.
Now, it was the Arizona Cardinals, and we all know why, but they were spending 49% of their revenue on players, not things. And all the colleges were so much better than the pros. You would hear guys in basketball and everything going, we got to the pros, and the facilities are like, where was this? That's changing now. I think that maybe is the biggest thing. And personally, I like it. I like the emphasis on the athlete. I like where we are. It's muddy. It's muddled. We'll figure it out. But I think the priorities are in place, and I like where we are with it.
No, I would agree with you. I think it has changed. I feel like the investment is in product. And we'll talk about this more going forward here on this episode, that it is about people and that it is about those that make it up. But I do think that there was also this time where a lot of institutions and athletic departments, you go back a few years, and I think we take it to 2021 when we were all landed with, thinking, oh, we've got a quiet summer and the Olympics are going on and this is going to be great. And then bam, thank you, Texas and Oklahoma, they're going to the SEC, and everyone's standing around going, holy smokes, what's happened next? That view from a Texas Tech side of the house, what was that like? Because I think everybody just said, oh, they're taking their stuff and they're taking their ball and they're going somewhere else. But there's a trickle-down effect within the state and with what happens there institution-wise.
Yeah, we saw it when A&M left to go to the SEC first and broke up that rivalry with Texas Tech and with Texas and other Texas schools. And that was the thing in the old Southwest Conference days in the Big Eight. All the Texas schools were basically in the same conference, more or less. Texas and Oklahoma leaves. That felt different at the time. So much more uncertainty. The leadership of the Big 12 level, I don't want to throw stones at people that aren't there anymore, seemed to be asleep at the switch. And you were left wondering, is this league even going to exist?
Yeah.
The idea of suddenly you band with the Pac-12, which now seems quaint and silly, doesn't it? That had that taken place, but that when the dust cleared, I thought Texas Tech ended up in a great spot. That you look at Texas Tech, you look at TCU, Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Iowa State. We're all kind of in the same grouping in the tiers of athletic departments and revenue, different things. And suddenly this became one of the most competitive conferences in America, top to bottom. Yeah. And that every school's fan base can feel like you have a legitimate shot in any program if you can commit to it, that you're not going to be just waylaid by the money in Austin or Norman, Oklahoma, or we can go back to the old days of Nebraska football or whatever. Everybody in this league wakes up knowing they've got a legitimate chance, and that wasn't always the case. And I think that's why we're seeing donations go up around the Big 12. I'll give you the Kansas football example.
Right.
15 years ago, 10 years ago, nobody's opening their wallet for that. There's no chance. There's no hope.
Yeah.
And now they believe, and they have reason to believe that what was it, $300 million? I know it's not just football, but that can be money well spent. And I think that's what's changed for all the teams that were in the original Big 12 that are still in it today.
No, I think you're right. And you got to have leadership, and you got to have the right people in the right place at the right time. I know Kirby Hocutt, he is an alum of my school of Kansas State. That's where I went. Shameless plug all the way around. But you have seen over many years sort of whether it's institutional leadership, athletic department leadership at Texas Tech, be able to weather these different storms. Your thoughts about where, from that perspective, not only the institution as a whole, but the athletic department sits in a day like today, and how we see this landscape changing all the time.
Kirby Hocutt has done a great job at Texas Tech, and I think he's helped the Big 12. He was one of those people that got involved in media rights deals as an athletic director. He had the ability to see over the horizon. He was on the college football playoff board at one time, has been involved in a lot of different levels like that. And even Dr. Lawrence Skuvinik, the Texas Tech University president, is very sports attuned, and he gets it and he understands it. So I think that really helped Tech at a time when there was uncertainty, maybe league-wise, that you felt like, okay, they've been watching what is taking place. You feel like it's going to be in a good spot. They had done a nice job getting facilities updated before some of the NIL started funneling money away from facilities and into athletes. And again, I think that's a good thing. But I think the thing with Hocutt is just that he really had a good pulse on what was going on. I would say more so than many of the Big 12 leaders at the time before Brett Yormark.
No, I would absolutely agree. And you mentioned Commissioner Yormark. I think the much more forward thinking about what this Big 12 is and can be moving forward. And that's one of the things that's helped this league, I think, find some stability, and all of the schools within it feel stable as well.
But I like he immediately came in day one, and it was, the old "we're open for business," which sounds kind of cute, but what he did, and it's a no-brainer, but it does come from professional sports, monetize everything.
Yeah.
We were averse in college sports for years to, oh, well, you wouldn't want to advertise their jersey on a patch unless it said Nike or Adidas. Oh, we can't have a logo on the field. We can't.
Yeah.
I mean, we can monetize so many things. But he also looked at the undervaluation of sports like women's basketball, like softball, even breaking out, we're talking about breaking out men's basketball for the current TV contract, which I think is a good thing. That he looked at a lot of untapped potential that the league just really had not put in the market, that this is going to help all of the schools within the Big 12 as we focus on that footprint.
No, I think you're right. Power 4, there are 4, and the Big 12 is a player. All right, first, shameless plugs all around today in this episode. All the latest news of women's basketball and more at our newsroom, thenexthoops.com, and then you're going to go find all of Ryan's work at theraiderland.com. Go over the Next Hoops. There's news, the Connecticut Sun back on the shopping block, possibly looking at sale there. They'll get you up to speed. All right, in just a moment, we got to talk about Ryan, about setting this bar at Tech. We mentioned it, investment and commitment. Well, August 26th is officially FanDuel Futures Day, a brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown your Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. You can take a flyer on the MVP. Who's your QB1? Is it Mahomes or Allen? Maybe it's Phillies on a repeat. I'm a born and bred Minnesotan, so I'm going to dive in on the Vikings, maybe to win a division championship. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now, because Future Day is one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. Hi, everybody. Missy Heidrick. Thank you for joining us here on Locked On Women's Basketball. I am with Ryan Hyatt, one man that knows so much about the history and where they sit today in Texas Tech and all things Red Raider athletics. All right. We mentioned it earlier, Ryan. Investing in your product, that college athletics as we know it. And for those of us that are old school, we've tried, you think about it as, it's not a business. It's always been a business. It's just changed. And the business is constantly moving. The goalpost is moving. The benchmarks are changing, all of the above. Facilities is where it was. Now we're talking about people. I want to start with one individual that obviously has made a huge impact at Texas Tech. And there's some folks that would say, I kind of forgot that he went to school there, but then all of a sudden he became the MVP of the NFL, and Patrick Mahomes is the biggest thing pretty much anywhere. And he is live or die Red Raiders. Talk about the impact of someone like that, and just from, I don't know even about the publicity side, but that's someone that said, I want to invest.
Yeah, and he came along at just the perfect time in this college landscape and the changing landscape to have that impact as a professional player. Two examples. One, he almost single-handedly delivered the new Adidas apparel contract to Texas Tech. That he is the face of Adidas football and really one of the faces of Adidas just nationally in all sports. He and Ludwig Ober, they're on the PGA Tour, both Adidas guys. But it was Patrick Mahomes appearing on TV in a Texas Tech shirt at a Tech basketball game a few years ago, and he put tape across the Under Armour portion of the shirt and hand wrote Adidas.
Yeah.
They sell that shirt today. Adidas makes a shirt that looks like tape covering up with Adidas on it for Texas Tech apparel. The other thing, imagine this. So at Arrowhead Stadium, when you go there to Kansas City Chiefs games, you will see on the ribbon board Texas Tech University Marketing. That Texas Tech has partnered with the Kansas City Chiefs in a marketing deal for the last at least 3, maybe 4 seasons now. That Texas Tech is recruiting actively students from the Midwest and bringing them to school in Lubbock. And part of that power is of Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
That he became a face in a way that Texas Tech really hasn't had that at that position. And it couldn't have come along at a better time to have a financial impact.
Yeah. And I think the financial side of it, I know with Adidas, he launched, I believe they call it Team Mahomes,
Right.
which was a selection of student athletes that were part of that then are embraced, and that dives into where the collective was and the NIL all pre-house settlement. But that type of investment, that exposure, as you said, not only just in recruiting normal students to come to Lubbock and think about Texas Tech as a destination for them to go to college, but it completely changes how the coaches within the athletic department there at Tech can recruit and expose them to it. Am I correct in that?
No, and you see that in all sports. Players want to know a couple of things. Well, now they want to know how much they're going to get paid. Okay, after that, can I get to the NFL? Can I get to the WNBA? Can I go to the next level? Everybody's pretty much on TV anymore. That really, it's funny. You go back to our day, holy cow, we're playing on TV. Now it's like, what do you mean we're on ESPN Plus? What's wrong? Not making fun of ESPN, just saying. But it's now, okay, can I get to the next level? And Mahomes proves that if you come to Texas Tech, you can do that in football. You got a few guys out of Tech in the league right now in the NBA. You're trying to kind of reestablish that brand in women's basketball. I think Krista Gerlich's getting there, getting closer. But yeah, just that impact that he had of people wanting to go where Patrick Mahomes went.
Yeah, I mean, you can't script it any better. Now then, we move into this day and age, as we said, one of those probably first big investors to be able to help Tech put themselves into the driver's seat, to be a big dog, to think about that. And then it was the deliverance of another individual. And this has been a topic and something that people have been talking about over the course of the last probably year or so, because the reason why so much of the conversation around Texas Tech being a big dog within some of the other players around the country has been one individual in Cody Campbell. And this man played football in the early 2000s at Texas Tech, has said he built and sold $15 billion worth of companies. Double Eagle Energy Holdings is a household name around a lot of media personnel in the college space. Talk about the impact of someone like Cody Campbell, because not everybody has one, and it has changed things in Lubbock.
Yeah, and first off, I'm really glad that Cody Campbell didn't end up coaching in the NFL or something after playing with the Colts for a little bit. And can you imagine the alternate universe where he's like a college offensive line coach right now?
I don't think that would be a good thing if you were a Tech person. This line of work for him was absolutely the best thing he could have done.
Yeah. So, him and Jason Sellers played at Texas Tech for Mike Leach in the early 2000s. They were teammates at Canyon High School up the road by Amarillo, Texas. They got into land acquisition. Obviously, they financed that. And then, they came along about 5 or 6 years ago after some of their first big sales. They were doing okay. They were panhandling down there in Midland, Odessa, like a Landman episode. But, after their latest round, and it is billions with a B, they were now in a position to really drive some things at Texas Tech. There's another great investor at Texas Tech named Dustin Womble, Womble basketball practice facility and the football South End Zone facility named after him. He was already kind of in the mix, and he's doing okay for himself too. But yeah, you all of a sudden have a super booster. And what we've seen with that, and talking to tech officials, when Cody, Campbell and Jason Sellers put their money behind something, the average fan dollars start to come in, that the other donations start to come in. I think that's what we're seeing at other schools around the country, that the guy that you can't give $1 million, but you can give 5,000, you give 500. That in the past you thought, well, what is my 500 going to do up against UT or Alabama or how's that going to help here in Manhattan, Kansas? Now I think those people are seen, and they're being led by big donors at these universities to say, hey, this really does go to something. Yep. Or you can directly go to the players now and sponsor them through NIL. All of that, I think, really has created a connection that we have not seen in college athletics up to now.
Well, and once we hit early June, and then you saw the House settlement come through, and that investment changes. And so I want to talk about that in a little bit when we come back. About football and men's basketball, they garner a lot of attention. We know that. But Texas Tech is putting their dollars also into women's sports, and it's producing big-time stars and big-time results. Hi, everybody. Missy Heidrick. Welcome back to Locked On Women's Basketball. Ryan Hyatt is here with me today. Ryan, all right. This investment that has come from Cody Campbell, his group, Double Eagle Energy Holdings, and Patrick Mahomes, all of those people, plus so many others, kind of knowing and saying, this is the time. We've done the facilities. They've said it's $300 million plus for football. We've kept up with the Joneses. We've done all of that. And now we got to start putting it into the people. And Pride of House settlement, NIL, could be controlled in different ways. And many of those, and in some of the reporting that's been out there, I've read $55 million in NIL contracts to Texas Tech athletes for the 2025 season. That's a lot of cash, my friend. That's a lot of money. But that is big-time stars looking and people wanting big-time results as well.
I think you're going to see that this fall. Joey McGuire, the Tech head football coach, has addressed it numerous times. He said, yes, absolutely, the pressure is real. We've been given everything, that's his words, everything we need to be competitive. So now you go from a team that, was qualifying for a bowl game, you just get to a bowl game and all that stuff, to now having to legitimately be in the mix to play in the Big 12 championship game. And I think that's kind of, for a lot of fans, fair or not, what they look at this roster and say, all right, you're the LA Dodgers. You're the New York Yankees of the Big 12. Mm-hmm. You ought to be in the mix that last week of the season to go play for that. And it were that easy, I think. But, yeah, the talent's there. And mm-hmm. we've seen the same thing the last 2 years, I think, with men's basketball. And like I said, Krista's bunch is getting there, an influx of talent that really can't wait to see what they look like. They're a little bit of a mystery right now because they do have a lot of new faces. But I think the talent has been upgraded. But the pressure's real in Lubbock. The money's there. Now you got to go win.
Let's talk about pressure, because you mentioned Krista Gerlich. She's heading into her 6th year with women's basketball. They've been on the outside looking into the NCAA tournament. I think you're absolutely right. The one thing we hear coaches say, and we know is happening in college athletics, is that you're trying to retain and recruit your current roster and you're bringing new people in. And that is happening. A year ago, that happened with a program that not many people were paying attention to. And that was the softball program at Texas Tech. A new head coach, Gary Glasgow, he had come from Louisiana where he'd had a ton of success. And they gave him a checkbook and he made it work because he got the best player in the country to come from Stanford to Texas Tech. And oh, by the way, they checked all the boxes, won all the trophies, and put themselves in the College World Series. Sometimes it really can be lightning in a bottle.
And if any sport can have that impact of a singular player, it might be women's college softball on the mound, at the plate, in a combo like that. And the recruitment of Nigeri Kennedy began when Glasgow, who had a relationship, I believe, with one of her youth coaches going back in the day. That they had a familiar relationship, and everybody knew Nigeri, so that shouldn't shock anybody. But she was at a time also at Stanford where there was some, what's going on? What conference are we going to be in?
Right.
The breakup of the Pac-12, which was so good in softball. And also, she wanted to hit, and Stanford wanted her to only pitch. So the money's that, hey, the $1 million gets your attention. But Glasgow made a commitment, said, you come here, you're not only can you hit, you better hit. We need you to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed, I think, the entire perception inside the program, outside the program. The impact was obvious on the field. Listen, I go back when this program first started, Missy, they were playing at Lubbock city-owned softball fields, recreational fields.
Mm-hmm.
No stands, some bleachers.
Yeah.
And last year they had to add outfield seating. They're in the process of building a new pavilion that will provide shade for the 3,000 fans that are in foul territory and all that. And it's not just Nigeria, but it's Nigeria.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen an impact like that on a program since Cheryl Swoops in women's basketball in 1991, 92, 93.
Yeah, no, and it is kind of amazing to think that, because not only did they have the success a year ago, and then it translates into what happens in the portal. And now all of a sudden, instead of the destination being Oklahoma or Texas, now you're talking about a big dog out of the Big 12 representing this league on the national scale. The players coming into that program for softball from other places that were top programs transferring in, pretty darn amazing. I think it goes back to what we said at the top. Investment in the people and the commitment counts.
And they now know that you can also win when you come to Lubbock. You'll have great support. You can go to Oklahoma City. You can play on that final day, and but for just a little bit more pitching, and they address that. When you got players coming in from UCLA and Tennessee and Florida to Lubbock, Texas, they're coming here because, again, NIL, absolutely, but investment in the program people and the fact that they know they can win.
Yeah.
And I don't think this could happen at a better time for college softball. It's never been more popular. It's never been hotter. There was that time when Jenny Finch was coming through there in Arizona and Kat Osterman down there in Austin. And, where are we going back? Like almost 20 years. And I just felt really old saying that. But I really thought then it was about to explode, because you also had women's soccer at that time.
Yes.
And the WNBA was coming into maturity after the Houston Comets run, and really so all those things were coalescing. I thought, oh wow, this is going to be it for softball, and it just kind of plateaued. But here in the last couple of years, and I will hat tip to ESPN and their coverage, of the postseason. I want to see more regular season games, but this is great for softball all around the country. Because if they can do it at Tech, they can do it in Manhattan. They can do it in Ames. They can do it, in Starkville. I just like saying Starkville, but that can happen, and I appreciate that, from a standpoint that I think Texas Tech is having an impact on the national stage in a positive way.
100%. And I say we see that trickle down effect also in women's basketball. We all know this, that and there's always been this idea that the rich just get richer, right? That everyone's just going to go to UConn, or they're just going to go to South Carolina. But we are spreading the wealth. The talent has changed, and we have seen more eyes watching women's sports in general, women's basketball, that you can go somewhere that might seem somewhat obscure or feel like I'm in an episode of Landman, which I love, by the way, and win. And that is I think maybe that's the next evolution of where we are in this landscape of college athletics, is that we don't know who's going to win a national title in college football. You may think you can, that the best roster is here, or it might be here. Men's basketball, we see it, and women's basketball, 100%. I think we're kind of getting to a point now where anybody has a chance to do it.
I agree, and you can now make it happen fast. The old days of trying to turn around a program, of Deb Patterson coming in, and all right, we got, I can't remember if it was Deb who said this or somebody back in the day, maybe Deb or maybe Connie Yori. I'm dating myself again. They asked her, you said you had a 4-year plan, coach. How come? Well, I had a 4-year contract, so I had a 4-year plan.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now you have the ability to turn over rosters so quick and change culture so quick in college athletics, for better or for worse. Sometimes that's not so good. But I do think it does lend itself to programs feeling, all right, we can change this, and we can get going, and we can reward our fan base, and we can make things happen more quickly. That you don't have to be down 4 or 5 years in a cycle and wait for, a senior class that you've been recruiting since they were 8th graders to get there. You can make it happen now, no matter where you are.
Well, and I think for those of us that have lived in the Big 12 universe for so long, that there have absolutely been those examples of, if you build it, they will come. And the fan support is there. They love winners, and they are true to the core. They're with you in the bad times, and they're with you in the good times. But now all of a sudden, when we start thinking about the need of people to step up and invest and be committed, that comes in different forms and fashions. But this Big 12 landscape, I feel, is on solid ground. And I think the fan bases and the institutions feel like that, at least today.
I think more so than any time since probably maybe 2010, when we first, had the rumblings of A&M leaving Nebraska, Missouri, and breaking up some of that. It felt like for a decade in Big 12 country, like you said, every day, all right, what's the realignment rumor? I mean, yes. I did a decade's worth of shows. I feel like doing the same stinking topic. Going, okay, well, Oklahoma State's going to the Pac-12, Tech's going to the AC. None of that now. It's none of that now. It's quiet. Now you want people coming. People want to get into the Big 12.
Yeah.
Memphis, a month ago, it's like, we will pay to come to your league.
Yeah.
That's the stability that Brett Yormark has brought in an unstable landscape. I don't think I almost said anybody. I guess we should say SEC and Big 10. But I don't see another conference out there that is as stable as the Big 12 right now.
No, I would agree with you. And I think if you have to look at a place that has had to figure it out themselves, Texas Tech has done it, and they've had the people to help them make it happen. There's no doubt about that. Ryan Hyatt, you are a gentleman and a scholar, my friend, of coming on here. I want you to tell everybody where they find all of your coverage for all things Texas Tech and beyond.
You got it. I appreciate you having me on. It's just great to see you again. I miss a lot of my old Big 12 friends and traveling around the league and everything. So this is fun for me. But you can find us. Our main site is theraiderland.com, original content, columns, and podcast. We do broadcast live every evening, 6:30 Central. You can catch us on our YouTube channel for Ryan Hyatt's Raiderland, Twitter X at Ryan Hyatt Media, and for my Facebook friends, it's Ryan Hyatt's Raiderland on Facebook Live too. So you're bound to find one of those things and catch us on there each night.
Well, and
we got a little K-State connection coming up tonight on the show. The inimitable one, John Kurtz, will be with us.
Awesome.
We'll see who he makes mad tonight.
Well, he's pretty good. He's going to make somebody pretty ticked off. There's no doubt, I'm sure. And getting ready for week 0, and then Texas Tech football kicks off next week. They've got a soccer program picked second in the Big 12 preseason poll, women's basketball, softball. It is nonstop if you are in West Texas. Like I said, if you love Landman, it's kind of like when you get off the plane in Lubbock. You look to the right, you look to the left. There's not much, but ladies and gentlemen, it is happening right now in Lubbock.
Thanks again.
Thank you. You can find me, Missy Heidrick, on X at Missy Heidrick. Find all of my amazing colleagues at thenexthoops.com and follow this podcast as well. Come back and see us all week. We'll be here 5 to 6 times a week. We've got you covered with everything you need to know. Thank you for making Locked On Women's Basketball your first listen today. For your second listen, find the Locked On NBA podcast, where there is no offseason. Doug, Matt, and Hayes keep you up to date. Contract negotiation, rumors, and everything you need to be the most informed fan. Find Locked On NBA on your YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Stay cool out there, my friends. Happy Tuesday. We will see you next time.